Everybody, it's me, Andrew. Get out into nature and tune in for yourself. Resonate with the Earth's electromagnetic field via 432 Hertz, the universal frequency. Balance out psychologically and emotionally and further strengthen your brain and your heart's coherence as well. Get a plant based diet going for yourself today and nurture yourself right back into life. We are literally herbivores in our nature. Further balance out your physical body's pH level and get with alkalinity. Then you can generate some static electricity. Send me some love telepathically, set attention to your mind and set intention to communicate. That is all there is to telepathy. You are now tuning in to great days. So today I wanted to talk about synchronicity and the experience of synchronicity and using synchronicity. Okay, so let's get into this. Um, so synchronicity is pretty much an experience where the microcosm and the macrocosm align, right? And this kind of triggers a synchronistic event, right? So a common example is like you are thinking of something, right? You're thinking of something, and it immediately happens. As you began to think about whatever it was that manifested itself, right? So, let's say you're trying to sell your car or something, and you you have a thought that somebody is going to come to ask for for the price of the car, right, on a specific time or specific date, and it kind of just unfolds in that exact same way, you know. Or maybe a better example is kind of like you're in the car and you're kind of thinking of something and it pops up on the radio, right? That's like minor synchronicity, or that's another example of synchronicity. So synchronicity is kind of when you're in alignment with the universe, right, or the microcosm to the macrocosm, and you come into that peak of unity, and that experience of unity for however long it lasts is the experience of synchronicity, you know. But the more that you start to get into what synchronicity is, then the more that you can understand it, you know, and the more that the experiences can last, right? Because the experience of synchronicity isn't momentarily, or it isn't just a moment, right? Synchronicity can last for hours, right? And in order to be able to dive deeper into what synchronicity is, you got to be able to open the genetic up, or you got to open up the DNA. You got to understand tachyonic energy, and you got to understand you got to understand the tachyonic energy, right? 0 point energy, time wave zero. Any one of these, you got to understand them. And the more that you begin to understand absolute zero, the more synchronicity is going to be experienced, right? So I want to say it's like it's definitely something higher dimensional, because um, it's kind of like whenever you're dreaming, you can manifest anything in the dreamscape with your thought process, right? So like when you're dreaming, you want a bunch of women, you think of them, and they all come, so there's definitely no boundaries to what you're able to do in the fourth dimension, or in the astral, right? Or in the dreamscape. So that's also something of synchronicity. When you're able to start doing that in your waking reality, you're able to induce synchronicity within your life, or you're able to induce synchronous experience, right? The more that you immersify yourself in the present moment, the more that synchronicity is going to be experienced, right? Why immersification? Because immersification, or being here in the present moment, disentangled from any illusory conceptions, allows you to get in tune with the 0 point energy. And the 0 point energy is the electromagnetic energy, um, that can be touched upon, right at the center of your being, at the heart. Um, so the 0 point energy is the free energy, right, that everybody is generating. So the whole thing is that 0 point energy. The system that we're living in isn't supporting 0 point energy. It's not supporting free energy, free, infinitely abundant energies that we are generating. More so, it's supporting energies that have to be paid for and things like this, and worked for. This is why they set up the grid system in the first place, so we could have survived, or we could have set it up to where, as a civilization, obviously, or as a species, we could have had it where energy was free, and everything was like wireless, and everything was abundant and infinite, and nobody would have to really pay for anything, right? Because this is just the way nature is. Nature is abundant, um, and nature is free, as long as you're living in harmony with nature, and you're, obviously, if you're living in harmony, you're giving back whatever you're taking, and it's always going to multiply itself, right? Because that's the law of abundance that is within the harmony of nature. So when we're living like that, when we're living within that harmony, nothing has to really be paid for, right? In the way that we're doing it these days, which is which kind of involves labor, things like this. You know, Not only labor, there's always going to be labor, but more so, definitely imbalanced ways of doing things, because everything is inharmonious, or disharmonious. Um, so this is why we're living within the grid system that we have these days, because we're uh, we're only living on the grid system because we're not living within the tachyonic energy, or the 0 point energy, which is free. And we're, our body, we are tachyonic energy, because our bodies are tesseracts. You know, the light body is a tesseract, and the tesseract, the point of the tesseract is tachyonic, right? So we are tachyonic generators, because our bodies are tesseracts, right? But we don't have as much access to that energy, because there's a war on consciousness, right? And if we did have access to the tachyonic energy within us, which a lot of people do, right? And it's kind of it's ascending. More and more people are getting access, which is natural within these times of the cyclical natures, right? But there's definitely a war on consciousness. So this is one of the reasons why they set up the grid system the way it is, when it never actually needed to be that way, because we have free abundant energy within ourselves. We are generating energy within ourselves, which is enough to sustain our lives. Which is also enough to keep whatever technologies we're using powered, you know. Um, but it kind of, the war on consciousness, it imbalanced things, you know. So now we aren't living within the tachyonic energy as an entire species, and this is why we have to live within the grid system, you know, because somebody or maybe a few people or a group decided dominators decided to take control of things so they can keep a dominating hand, right? So now most of the planet is living in this lower state of awareness, because we aren't living planetarily within the tachyonic energy. Even though the planet is abundant in tachyonic energy, that's what the grid system is for. The grid system is here to is to put like is to like monetize that tachyonic energy, right? Or not just monetize, but like cap it and monetize it, you know, or limit it and monetize it, because the tachyonic energy, infinite abundant energy that is found all throughout the universe and is within you and is consciousness, is free, right? And it's abundant, and due to this fact, due to the nature of its freeness, um, they some people or some controlling organizations literally put a cap on it, or they put like a limiters on it, and they monetized it, you know. So now you have to actually work and you have to make money in order to sustain the very very low powered energy that we're using these days, you know. Like like the various like the entire system is just very 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 low energy. This is very low power that we're living within, and because we're overseen by lower energy sources, we're living in lower energy states, you know. So if we were living in tachyonic energy and 0 point energy, and if it was like this, then we definitely be higher in consciousness, you know, as a globe. um it's literally a war on consciousness, right? And this is one of the reasons why they capped or they took the tachyonic energy and they monetized it, right? So people have to slave away in order to sustain their energy, right? So the whole war is that you are that energy, and that energy is within you, you know. It's like trying to make you pay for sunlight, which is exactly what they've done. You know, they're not going to tell you that you're paying for sunlight, but you're paying for sunlight, you know, because I mean, for one, they're making you pay for your land. All the land is yours. Um, but some people decided to use weapons and things like this to kill you and your family a long time ago, take control, and then slave the offsprings away. You know, then they made you pay for the land that they stole from you, and then now you're having to pay for what should be free. You know, like solar energy. Solar energy should be free, but you have to pay to live under the sun, right? So this is what I'm talking about. They're taking free energies, they're making you pay for water, they're making you pay for food, and they're making you pay for solar energy, and all this should be free, right? The only reason it's not free is because it's a war on consciousness. If we were still living in harmony with nature, then our consciousness would be extremely high, and if it was high, we wouldn't be in this level of density. We'd be on an ethereal level of vibration. So in order to keep us from an ethereal level of vibration, they went and did these types of things, so now we have to like slave away. We have to live under lower energies, right? The whole grid system is a lower type of energy, um, because it's definitely not 0 point energy. Even though 0 point energy, we're tesseracts, right? So 0 point energy is abundant, or we possess 0 point energy at the center of our being, but the whole grid system is made to suppress that, or to keep you away from tapping into that, so that you won't raise your awareness. Because once you start doing that, um, you start posing a threat to the people who are slaving you, right? It's like rebelling against the slave master. Obviously, the slave master is not going to be able to take on 100 different slaves, right? Um, so they definitely want to keep as many people quiet as they can, you know. So zero point energy, you can definitely access this. It's not inaccessible. You can access this within yourself, especially at this time, at this space time, which is the rise of the divine feminine. Okay, so you can access the tachyonic energy within you, and this is 0 point energy. This is where you're gonna. This is where you're going to be able to um tap into absolute zero, right? Which is infinite energy. It's infinite. It's consciousness, right? So you can kind of tap into it, and you can expand your awareness as you're opening yourself up. And once you start tapping into it, you open up genetically, and you can start traveling the universe, because the DNA is a biological network. So the moment you start opening up the DNA, you are able to experientially project yourself into the cosmos, right? So you can have dreams, you can have hallucinatory experiences, you can have experiences that are beyond the earth, and you can have experiences of different star systems. You can have experiences of other dimensions. You can have experiences that your words aren't going to be able to explain, right? Because they're of a completely different dimension. So you can't use the English language because it's built for a specific fixation, right? And the moment that you're breaking beyond that, you're not going to have words to explain anything, right? But you can still experience these things. So if you experience a different planet, obviously it's a completely different place. So you can't explain anything about it. All you can really do is transmit the experience to other people via different abilities, you know, that we possess on an inert level. But it's not inert so long as you begin to open up the genetics, because within the genetics, you have abilities that can be utilized to be able to do all these types of things for the expansion of awareness and cosmic consciousness, right? But you can't do any of those things at the rate at which can be accessed, because of things like the war on consciousness, or the grid system, or dominators, people like this, right? So you have to you have to kind of connect yourself back with nature in order to touch upon the tachyonic energy within yourself. Okay, 0 point energy, absolute zero. Zero is infinitely nothing, which is the nature of consciousness. Okay, nothing gave way to something. Infinitely nothing is also infinitely something. That's 0 and 1. That's binary code, and that's the computational language of all existence and even non-existence, right? So tachyonic energy is going to allow you to be able to liberate yourself multidimensionally from the fixated level of awareness, right, that has been conditioned into us. Um, so you can definitely to tap into that. You can do your own research, obviously, because I don't have any method, because it's kind of something that happens of itself, because the tachyonic 0 point energy is very, very natural form of energy, right? So since it's so natural, it is inevitable that you are going to tap into the 0 point energy, and you don't have to effort all that much, right? It's something that happens of itself, basically, is what I'm trying to say. um, the only problem is that the lower energy states that we're using, like the grid system, nuclear energies, things like these types of energies, are kind of keeping us from that, because we're so reliant on these types of energies, these lower energies. We don't. Not everybody is immediately going to think that we need another source of energy, unless you're in that um, like area of occupation or something, where you have to be able to contemplate energy, right, and new forms of energy. But tachyonic energy, you can tap into this for yourself, and you can expand the awareness cosmically through the 0 point energy, right? Very, very simple to do as well. Once again, it's something inevitable because tachyonic energy is natural. So if you just effort yourself to connect with nature, the tachyonic energy is going to be able to access, or is going to be able to be accessed, right? Um, and you don't actually have to know anything about the tachyonic energy, because it's within you, right? So you can access tachyonic energy, 0 point energy, but you don't actually have to know anything about it to be able to access it in the first place, right? Because it's inevitable that you're going to access it. Um, but if you want to expand your knowledge, you can do it through the immersification of experience, or immersifying yourself experientially, while opening up yourself to 0 point energy that is found within yourself. Or you could just do research, on the internet, because you're gonna be able to find tachyonic energy on the internet. You're gonna be able to find 0 point energy on the internet, and there's millions and millions and millions of people who are already in knowledge of it, who have learned about it through experience. So you can learn about it on the internet. You can learn about it through your own experience, right? Which is probably the best to be able to do, to keep more saturation to it. You know, you want to experience it yourself, right? But you just gotta have a little bit more patience if you're gonna do it this way. But tap into the tachyonic energy. That's all there is to it. And that's gonna be it for today's video. So Dude, thank you everybody for watching. Once again, peace out, one love, and have a great evening.